Welcome to today's episode of Insights from a Mining Recruiter's Perspective. I'm Alana from W1N, and it is Thursday, the 21st of April, 2022. So, as you know, massive things have been going on, especially within the mining industry. We've got a few overseas scenarios that are coming on. So I thought I'd get one of my good buddies on as well. We're in a joint venture, and he is the underground guru because there's so much going on. So without ado, I'd like to welcome Andrew Knight from Underground Training on. Andrew, thanks for joining me.
No worries, Alana. Good to be here.
Yeah, definitely. So Andrew, you worked in the mining industry for 27 plus years. You started at the bottom and then you worked your way into the shift boss position. So tell me, what's going on in the industry in your opinion at the moment?
Well, when I first jumped into the industry, it was in a boom, a gold boom at the end of '94. And I've been through about 5 booms since then. And this one is shaping up to be the craziest of the lot. And the reason that is normally it's only 1 or 2 metals that go off at one time. But because of the batteries and what's going on with gold, everything's gone nuts all at once. And there's just a huge demand for people out there that they just can't satisfy.
Yeah, agreed. Hey, even today, the gold prices hit 2,000 US. Lynas has just announced that they're starting construction on their processing facility in Kalgoorlie. It is going off, and same. Like, I've been in the industry for a long time, and I've never seen the necessity of really, really good staff members as it is today. The projects like gold mines digging deeper, it is going off. So, I mean, what do you?
And you can go broke in a boom too if you don't have enough good people with you, and that's what's driving up the wages everywhere. Everybody's trying to poach everybody at the moment.
Oh, definitely. And it's a candidates market. They can jump for 50 cents these days, which we're seeing it working in the recruitment scope as well and dealing with a few different companies. They're having mass issues holding on to candidates because of that fact. And it's so easy for someone to go off and, you're going to pay me an extra 27 bucks an hour. Okay, see ya. But let's specifically talk about, the mine. So, all right, tell me, the underground industry. A lot of people want to get into it, but they're a little bit apprehensive. What's it like underground? So tell us, from your perspective, what does a day look like?
Well, you're jumping into one of the most safe areas of the industry. And one of the reasons that is because when I first started, it was dangerous. The first year that I was underground, they killed 22 people. Now, touch wood, it's been 18 months since we had a fatality. We had a couple of quick fatalities in a row, and then it's been 5 years before that since we had a fatality. And that's all down to the systems of work that they brought in and the new rule that they brought in 1995 that made the owners responsible for all the employees on site. So if something goes wrong on your mine site, then whoever owns it is standing in the dock next to the shift boss and the underground mine manager or the resident manager. And they've enforced it over here in WA. And that means that everybody wants, all the employers, they want to jump into line and they want to train everybody the right way. But that creates its own problems in itself because you've got to prove in a court of law that you've trained everybody on site, on your site. There's no real call for a training school or anything like that before you get to site. That's why it's the chicken and the egg. You can't get experience until you get a job. You can't get a job without experience. And that's why that's come into effect basically with the mining industry, with Hardrock Underground, because the onus is on the employers to be able to prove that they've done everything they can to train you. And that's why every time you move site, you have to redo your equipment tickets and your procedures, even if you move internally within the same company. They're really full on with that. And it's made the industry a lot safer over the years, but I'm not going to lie to you, it's a ginormous pain in the ass every time you move sites because you spend 2 weeks in the safety and training office having to, redo everything. But from my perspective, it's made the industry a hell of a lot safer.
Yeah, I think that's across the board though, isn't it? Induction overkill. You're sitting there for 2 weeks with massive folders, having to go through all the safety information that you've probably been through a million times before. But
signing your life away.
Oh God, yeah, flick and tick. Oh, did I say that? No. 100%. Hey, it's sometimes when you're doing it, it's complete overkill, but then you realise that it is actually for your own good, and people need to be, trained up properly before they get underground, and that's where a lot of these companies that I've been speaking to are having massive issues retaining people because, you know, the onboarding process is so expensive. Then you get the candidate
Yep.
out of sight, they freak out. They're, you know, underground for 12 hours a day in a big black hole. Like, that's not for everyone. So one thing that
Yep.
you've done, which I absolutely love, and full disclosure, Andrew and I, we work together, which you probably would have known. We have an underground training system that Andrew and a whole ton of shift bosses from WA developed, which is cutting edge, Andrew. Like, it's seriously, it is definitely the difference between candidates being able to go in completely blind, have no idea, and then 5 seconds later they're on a plane coming home back to their mummy again because they can't handle it.
Yep.
And
Yep.
then candidates who can actually, who are aware of what they're getting into, they know the terminologies, safety, and so they can go out on site. So that's something like that wasn't around when you were a shift boss. How do you think this has been a complete game changer?
Well, it's all about the employee knowing what they're getting themselves into, the good and the bad stuff. I like to say if I had $5 for every time I've seen someone put up their hand and say, check, please get me out of here, I wouldn't be doing this. I'd be on a boat out the back of Roddo fishing at the moment. It's all about knowing what you're getting yourself into and knowing what the terms are, all that sort of stuff, what a jumbo is. And it just frees you up when you first get there to learn how to drive the truck or nipper or whatever they want you to do, because you're not worried about this wall of information that you're getting hit with between the eyes. And for me, from my perspective, when I was shift bossing, the biggest problem and the thing that we noticed most was that the people that were failing didn't have their head around how the mine worked. And that was their big, they didn't have any problem operating the gear. That's very rarely a problem. The big problem that people have is when they get to site, being able to get their head around how the mine works so you can be left alone to get on with the job. If I can't leave you alone to get on with the job as a shift boss, you don't have a job, unfortunately. And that's where people struggle. And that's why if you go in green, like know nothing on day one, to an underground job, using the company's systems, and this is not a slide on the companies, this is just the way it is, you've got more than a 50% chance of failing, just because that's just the way it goes. And that was the whole intent of us writing the training back in the day. It used to be a 3-day training course. They moved it all online in 2016. Works just as well online. The employers love it. If you can go into an interview and be able to talk to the employers about ground support and self-rescuers and refuge chambers and stench gas and all the other things that you've got to know to be, be on your own underground in the job, then it gives you a huge advantage over everybody else. And you just have to look at the feedback that we get from people. I got a call yesterday from a guy that got a job in New South Wales, and he just wanted to tell me that the guy that called him up and offered him the job, he said, the first reason you're getting this job is because you've done the course and you can answer the mining questions. Second reason is that you had a good employee track record. He'd been with the same company for 20 years, so that was really good. And the third thing was that you can get to us and you're happy to relocate to where we are. And if you can do those things, you end up blowing the wind up the skirt of people that do the hiring, as I like to say.
100%. Hey, like, I've been talking with one of the a director from one of the big mining, like, gold companies that is worldwide, and one of the key things that he was saying is, we're trying to work out how we can get around the fact that our candidates come out, they freak out, and then next minute we're spending like millions of dollars a year completely down the drain because these candidates aren't prepped properly. So that costs, obviously,
costs roughly 20 grand. It costs roughly 20 grand to get somebody from the stage where they hire them, medical them, get them to site, do the inductions, get them in the uniform, sitting in the front seat in the truck facing forward and going down the decline. You won't get any change out of 20 grand. And for people like, more than 50% of people to fail at that, it becomes a very expensive exercise very quickly.
Yeah. Oh, no, 100%. Hey, and then, there's damage to the equipment. They're sitting with somebody for 2 weeks in the dicky seat, and the person, it puts the pressure on the experienced operator. They then need to take, responsibility for that person. That, it can be quite stressful all around 100%. So,
And they start jumping at shadows after a while too. Because they're experiencing this failure rate, anything that you do that might be deemed that you're not going to make it on site might be, tap on the shoulder, check, please, you're out of here, see you later. That happens a lot too, unfortunately, because they want to, you've got to get up to speed and find your feet as quickly as possible. If the longer it takes you to find your feet, the bigger the chance are that you're not going to make it. And that's what's good about the training, is that it lets you find your feet within a couple of weeks instead of a couple of months. 100%. And and that's what the aiming of it was.
Yeah. And how would you think that would compare with a company that's potentially contemplating doing simulator training? Simulator, ridiculously expensive, yet you still don't have that knowledge.
It hasn't, all it's done is move the goalposts, because ultimately when you do the company training, and again, this is not a slide on any companies, it's just you get a very positive view of what you're getting yourself into. One of the things that we didn't set out to do when we wrote the training, but we did in the end, was that because we tell you warts and all what's going on, the good and the bad stuff, we used to have people come up to us after the 3-day course and say, oh, gee whiz, we learned so much about mining, we learned enough that we know we don't want to do it anymore, sort of thing. And and that's the exposure that you want. And what normally happens is that it's all good and people go through all the training that the companies do until they get to site and get dropped in the deep end and they get slapped across the face with the first thing that they don't really like. And then that's when you start to separate them out. And so we thought the better idea would be to slap everybody across the face before they go. Just to make sure that they know what they're getting themselves into, for want of a better term.
Definitely. No, I agree. And I did the course, as you know, and like, quite frankly, I've been underground. I just went under, I had the opportunity years ago when I was on site to go check it out. I was just in the LV. I wasn't going down there to actually work, but I was like, hell no, this is not for me. I think it takes.
That's one of the joys of the shift boss job is normally now they, back in the day, they used to put everybody through the induction first and then take them down the hole. And they worked out in about 2002, 2003, that was an expensive way to do it. So now what they normally do is they shove everybody in with shift boss the first afternoon they're on site, just to make sure no one's going to freak out before they spend any money on them, any more money training them. And that's always a fun job, taking them underground for the first time. I had a guy try and climb out the window on me before we even hit the portal. I had to lock the doors. I had to turn around straight up to safety and training, straight past them, after the shift boss office, into the AMBO. They ended up knocking him out and flying him out RFDS later on that day. Yes, it was amazing.
That's an expensive $20,000 plane ride as well, isn't it?
Exactly. And everybody's got a story like that. Like there's an underground miners page on Facebook, and somebody asked about 6 months ago, what's the longest time you've seen anybody stay on site? And somebody saw somebody jump off the plane, go, oh, it's too friggin' hot, and want to get back on the plane and go home again.
Hey, I've seen that, and that's not even just in underground. That is in like every mining scenario, production, construction, whatever. People just and that's where it comes down to as well, recruiting the right person. Like for me, give me someone who's motivated over somebody who's experienced any day of the week, because they're more motivated. One candidate that we've just had who went through your underground program and also obviously hooked in with the win-win package. He super motivated. He came over from Melbourne. Due to the border closures, he had sold everything, given up his lease, so he had nowhere to stay for weeks. And then finally, when the WA border opened again, he jumped on the plane the very first day and was that motivated because he wanted to work underground. God knows why, but he did your course multiple times. He loved it, and that's it. It was a good
money.
Yeah. Now that's the next question I wanted to actually ask you about. Tell me about the money, because the mining industry is so lucrative across the board, but there are certain industries where you have the opportunity to make bank big time, and underground is one of those places. So talk us about average salaries, how quick it takes to move up the food chain, and the opportunities that come from working within that.
So it's to move up the food chain at the moment, it's a fairly quick thing because we're in the middle of a boom. So everybody needs to keep that in perspective. But I'll give you the time frames of that if it's just ticking along sort of thing. But because you're in a boom, lanes will open up in front of you. But you start off as a nipper or a truck driver, and most people start on about $400 a day. Once you qualify out whichever company that you're working for, you normally move up to $500 to $550 a day. Then you move on to service crew or pace crew. They're making between $550 and $800 a day. Once you've finished with there, you move on to charge up or the bogger. Charge up are the people that load the explosives. Bogger are the underground loaders. They're $700 to $1,000 a day. And then the destination job that everybody wants is the twin boom jumbo operator job. And those guys are making $1,500 to $2,000 a day. And once you get your WA shift bosses ticket, because a little known fact is that WA, because of our Act and regulations, is seen as world's best practice with underground mining. And the two big contract mining companies we've had over here, Burncut and Barminco, based out of Perth, are actually recognised as the world's best contractors underground. So once you get your start, if you work your way through your career, you can end up working overseas as a jumbo operator, a foreman, or a shift boss. And those guys are making between 25 and 40 grand a month. And doing sort of 2 months on, 1 month off. Yeah, it's the money's ridiculous. And it's just because we're universally recognised as the best miners in the world, and everybody wants an Australian to run their mine at the moment. And when I mean run, I'm not talking engineers or geos or anything like that. I'm talking about foremans and shift bosses and jumbo operators. So the people in the actual mine that make it all go.
Yeah, no, definitely. Hey, like WA is basically a big giant hole in the ground, pretty much. Every single mineral that there is here, and they're digging for it. So it's the place to be, really, if you want to make money.
And they get to splash the cash around too. The last time, like nickel's gone to 45,000 Australian a ton. Last time it did that, I was in Kalgoorlie and it was 2006. And some of the guys that I knew that were working out at Black Swan and Silver Swan, they were getting their normal pay, and then they were getting bonus checks that were $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a month. Just because they were just making so much money out there. And the joke used to be, you know, if you found a bonus check for 5,000, you throw it back on the ground and you'd keep walking, hoping you pick up one for 20. You know, that was the joke. And so I can see them going back to those days very quickly, because when it goes boom like this, whoever wins is the one that has the most experience, and they're the ones that are going to pay the most money. And if you look at the job ads, you can already see everybody starting to poach each other. And I mean, the shift bossing rate has gone from like $800 or $900 a day up to $1,200, $1,300 a day just in the last 12 months. And I posted a job ad for a bogger a couple of days ago now for $1,000, and you should have seen the reaction that got online. But yeah, you know, it's good money. It's really, really good money, and it's only going to get better, because it's, you know, with what's going on in the world, you know, it's only, you know, the prices of everything are only going to go up, and we seem to be on one side of it, and Russia seem to be balancing us out on the other side for the rest of the world. But it seems to be us and Russia that have got everything that everybody wants. So
Andrew,
puts us in a good position.
Don't say the R word. We don't want to get in trouble.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yep. Sorry. I better not say that.
Gotcha.
You can.
I agree. Like, you know, everything that's going on right there is actually benefiting Australia in so many ways. You know, oil and gas getting shut off, even like fertilizers coming down, which is like being cut off, is phenomenally terrible. But you know, with the gold price as it is at the moment, $2,000 US at the moment, companies are going to be digging those holes way deeper. You know, still
heaps deeper.
Keep going insane. We all know MRL is killing it within the lithium scope, and then the rare earths. As everyone knows, if anyone's listened to my podcast, I am rare earths through and through. Like, it is the way of the future. It is the future. Defense, you know, aeronautics, absolutely everything. So, what do you think is going to be one of the industries? Where do you think it's going to go? Are we going to go more rare earths? Are we going to go more copper?
If you are new to the industry these days, I would be counselling you to look at the situation that's going on with the EVs, the electric vehicles that they want everybody to do, and batteries, because that's where you're going to get your 10 or 15 year career out of it. You know, at the moment, there's a bit of a sugar hit in coal and oil and gas because the prices have spiked. But, you know, in a couple of years' time, when it all dies down again, you know, they're still going to be coming for everybody's coal job, unfortunately. So, you know, they're not going to be coming for your job in the copper mine or the gold mine or the nickel mine or the rare earths mine, magnesium, lead, zinc, all that stuff goes into batteries, and that's what shot the price up. So that's why I like Hardrock Underground, because once you learn how to mine the Hardrock Underground method, you can jump from a copper mine to a gold mine to a nickel mine to a zinc mine. It's all the same method. It's just you're just digging up a different thing.
Yeah, agreed. And you're underground, I'm more civil production, so they work so well together. Obviously, you need the civil industry to, like, you know, get everything prepared when the mine starts, you know, actually digging it up. So those work so well together. And one good thing about that industry is predominantly they're not going to be able to automate it, because that's one thing that we're noticing within the mining industry right now. Automation is going insane. MRL just had their 3 trailer trucks now delivering iron ore, whatever it was. So Tell us about that. What's your thoughts on how that's going to go?
So we actually we were leaders in underground. The first bogger that I ever saw drive itself was back in 2007. So we've been doing it with the underground loaders for a long time. But one of the things that they made us do is exclusion zones. And the equipment has to operate in a zone where there's no humans in it. So with the iron ore mines, like when you've got your big road that's got nobody on it that you own yourself, you can drive your road trains like that on there, not a problem. Your strip mines where you can have the digger up on a level with a person in it and all the trucks automated below on another level, that's all okay. Where it's not okay is where you've got a big pit with one ramp going down and one ramp going out, or a decline with one going in, one going out. You just can't create those exclusion zones that they needed by the act and the regulations for it to run properly under the law in those situations. That's why, iron ore, all the strip mines that they've got, and a few of the the coal mines in Queensland that are strip mines as well, they're all moving to these driverless trucks because they can. Whereas the pits where you've only got one way in and out, and the undergrounds where you've only got one way in and out, they can't automate like that. They're just not allowed to under the legislation. And that's why I steer people towards underground. Like eventually, one day when we're very old and very grey, I can see them automating all of it. But by that stage, if the jumbo operator doesn't have a job, then the plumber doesn't have a job, or the sparky doesn't have a job, sort of thing. It's that sort of situation.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's why I tend to steer people towards underground, because it's going to be one of those last places where the jobs are replaced. Just purely because it's not that they can't get the trucks to do it, they can. It's just it becomes extremely dangerous when you're in a confined space with a truck that's driving itself. And as someone that's had a remote control bogger run amok on them back in the day, I can appreciate that, very much. Fortunately, it ran out of fuel after about an hour and a half. So got stuck in one of those little cuddies.
Who didn't do their pre-start properly?
Oh no, that was back in the day where the remotes just used to go ape shit for no apparent reason. It was still back in the testing days. God, that was 97, 98 maybe. Yeah, long time ago. But you're suitably scared. I'm not going to be jumping in a Tesla and pressing the button and letting it drive itself anytime soon. Let me tell you.
We're going to need to sort that out, aren't they? The EV charging stations, the battery life on them, so many issues. That's
it. And batteries are consumable too. That's the other thing people don't realize is that we're not going to have to stop digging this shit out of the ground because they need it because it's a consumable. And that's where the growth is going to be in the industry. And that's where if you get in now, you'll get your good 10, 15, 20-year career out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. And rare earths is where I'm at. I'm silver mines, gold mines, rare earths. It is 100 lithium, copper, pretty much anything.
Western Metals has got a big couple of big rare earth mines up north.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
Full disclosure, I just basically any shares, any exploration companies, I'm like, that's it. I'm putting some cash into that one because they find some whatever it is, and then we've got some massive returns coming in on that. So I think that's going to be definitely the way it is. That's why I say civil 100%, because you need to lay the foundation for these sites actually kick off. So I agree. Now tell me, what are your thoughts on the apparent it keeps coming around? We've got an unskilled workforce where missing, what's your take on this? I see it in the news every couple of weeks going on.
The thing that I have a problem with the media is that they're really clueless about where the jobs are at the moment. They're still trying to run people down the iron ore route and the coal route and all that sort of stuff, and oil and gas they're talking about with unskilled labourers and unskilled people and all that sort of stuff. It's with mining, yes, they need a lot more fitters and they'll probably end up bringing a few in from overseas. But because the Australian government classes all the crew jobs underground as unskilled labour, they can't bring anybody in from overseas. They have to train either Australian citizens or permanent residents. And, when you also look at it through the scope of that everybody else in the world thinks that we're the best miners in the world, so why the hell would we bring in people from overseas to do something that we're the best in the world at? It gets, it's just, there is shortage of people, but the companies are training and they're pouring people through. It's just, a lot of people are jumping into it without knowing what, they're the full bottle on it. And when, you jump into it green, sometimes things go sideways on you. And I think a lot of that's happening around the place at the moment.
Yeah, and I think that is just a fantastic opportunity for these companies to have a little bit of foresight and go, all right, what's going on within the industry, where we're going. We all know that the green thing is going to become a massive situation. So these companies need to really go, what are we going to need, and have utilized, a little bit of planning and scheduling skills to be able to say, oh, we're going to need this, so let's start the apprenticeships now on it, which is exactly what's happening, which I think is a fantastic opportunity. Yep. Everyone comes to us and they talk about dump truck traineeships. I'm like, no. Look at all these other opportunities that are coming up, which is,
the difference between traineeships and entry-level jobs. We could talk about that. Whenever I hear traineeship, I just think wage suppression, because most of the traineeships are 12 to 18, 12 months to 2 years. They don't want you on a lot of money, and most of the traineeships are in coal and iron ore. Whereas what we do in Hardrock Underground, they call it entry level, because you're thrown in the deep end, and as soon as you can do the job, they're going to pay you the full whack. And if you can do the job well, they'll promote you straight away too. Whereas with the other way of doing it, with the traineeship, it's all about paying somebody 23 or 24 bucks an hour for 2 years instead of having to pay them, 50 bucks an hour sort of thing. So, and
what I'm noticing as well, I hear, and I see it even yesterday, somebody did a bit of a dodgy, and next minute they got found out because they were like, yeah, I've done this. Traineeships, people are jumping into them, and then a month later they're going out and they're classifying themselves as a full-time, a fully fledged operator to get the big bucks, which is causing some mass safety issues out on site as well. So yeah, a lot of this.
I mean, I can understand someone in that position though, because back when I first started, there weren't any traineeships for open pit, and you sort of got thrown in the deep end, and most people were up to speed within a month or 6 weeks. So I could see a whole heap of people going to site, doing the training and going, what? And you're only going to pay me $24 an hour for the next 18 months for this, and you've already trained me, check please.
Yeah. No, 100%. Hey, I totally agree with that. But there is the safety element. But
Definitely.
I think a lot of this, which I'm sure you've noticed too, and this is one thing that I've got heaps of candidates come to us, and they're having mass issues with the recruitment processes that are going on. So do you want to have a little chat about that one? Because I know that could be a mass hindrance to getting good staff.
Yeah, one of the issues that the underground companies have is that they turn over a lot of new starters, but they also turn over a lot of HR people. And so often when there are people that have been in it for 5, 10, 15 years, but there's also a hell of a lot of people that only last 6 to 12 months, and then they have enough of it and get out of it. So when you're talking to some of the HR people, you don't necessarily want to assume that they're the full bottle on absolutely everything. Often that they're just like everybody else, being thrown in the deep end. And because underground's different with the tickets, and because they have to issue their own on-site tickets and procedures and all that sort of stuff, it can get confusing for people coming in from national systems that use the national ticketing system. So yeah, a lot of they turn over a hell of a lot of HR people, unfortunately, and that can make it really challenging for when you are trying to talk to people about stuff, and just continuity dealing with the same person. We've had people that were getting jobs and then they quit, and the new person that took over just wanted to start again, sort of thing. And there's a lot of frustration going that, but that unfortunately that sort of stuff happens.
Yeah, as you know, part of our business, we actually source candidates for different mining companies, and that is one of the key thing or frustrations where we also go through. It's constantly like you're dealing with that one recruiter or talent acquisition specialist, as they like to be called these days. And then next minute that person's gone, and you're like, hang on, she just wanted these like an HD fitter or whatever it was, and now I'm dealing with somebody else who seems to go MIA, and they've got no idea what the process is. So for candidates, we're just, I keep saying, what, the squeaky wheel always gets the oil on this one. So if you are a candidate in that position, the key is to get up all in their face. Like, you know what I mean? If somebody turns over, you've still got a telephone number. Keep bringing that. Keep emailing. Because the mass turnover in most of these mining companies is worse than, with the recruitment aspect, is worse than the actual candidates who are working out on site. So yeah,
it's right up there. And I think a lot of it's got to do with the fact that, they're getting paid probably $70,000 a year, and they're finding entry-level jobs for people for 100, 110. I know a lot of people, I've had a lot of HR people tell me that that's why they've quit over the years, is that they got sick of finding, really, jobs for people that are earning twice as much money as them, to start with. So,
And then they get out to site and be like, what the hell? I'm earning twice as much for half the work. This is awesome.
Yeah.
And you get a holiday every, 2 weeks on and then a holiday for a week. So happy days. All right, Andrew, I wanted to talk to you about all these green projects. So I know we've got the coal situation, especially on the East Coast in Queensland, mass coal ones going on over there. Then we've got the whole, green situation coming up. So trying to get away from
solar panels.
Yeah, solar panels. Did you see that? The sun cable project that's going to be starting up, apparently supplying 15% of the electric needs to Singapore and taking up 12,000 hectares in Australia. What's your thoughts on that project?
See, a lot of people look at that and they go, oh, what a great, renewable project it is. And I look at that and just go, holy shit, all the consumables that are going to go in that to keep that going. You know, how much stuff are we going to have to dig out of the ground to make all the panels and replace the panels when they need replacing, the cables, all that sort of stuff. It is renewable energy, but the amount of stuff that has to come out of the ground to make it all happen, it's just phenomenal. And it's not out. It's, there's only apparently a 2-month supply of nickel on the shelf at the moment. There's only a 3-month supply of copper. That's why the prices are up. And when you're doing major projects like this, I just think that, sometimes people jump into these projects without thinking about where everything's going to come from. I mean, sounds great in principle, but, you've got to dig it up and make it first.
Yeah, I agree. And I just hope that they're not going to be doing, coal's bad for the environment. Let's shut off that before we've actually got something in place to replace that energy. So I agree. They're saying that 30 gigawatt of power they're going to be getting up and they're going to be storing it in batteries. All right, where the hell are we going to get that?
I know. And again, we've been dealing with lithium batteries in the mining industry for a long time because we used to power them with the remotes, and we used to have to sit through all these safety things at the start of the meeting, safety briefings from the US Army that used to run over the batteries with their tanks and blow up their tanks, because what people don't realize is that those lithium batteries, they're a little bomb, and they used to give Power Gel a run for its money with the way it used to explode. So it's, there's a lot of stuff that go into those batteries that I think a lot of people don't really realize how they work and what's going on with it all and all that sort of stuff. But, good for us, in the mining industry, because there's going to have to dig up a hell of a lot of stuff to make all those batteries. Yeah,
and what I like is especially, companies like Linus now, they've got their own processing facility that is starting construction on in Kalgoorlie. I think hopefully, if anyone's watching this who has the power to actually do anything, we need to get back to the state where we dig it up here, we process it here, and we turn it into what we need to, so that we can outsource it. Because there is no reason why we don't have the manufacturing skills, and that could be a completely new, source of income for the government, especially to create these industries where we're basically self-sufficient, a closed circuit where we sell it off to overseas. Give China a run for their money.
Yeah, it's already starting to happen with everything that happened with, COVID, with everything, the supply chain issues. You see within the industry, there's a lot of mining companies that are trying to get stuff made here in Australia rather than trying to rely on overseas suppliers, which is good. And, if it was my mind, that's the way I'd be running things too, because, there's parts on boats, still being waiting for. I don't know if you had one of the cars that was on the car carrier. That was a mate of mine had a car on one of the car carriers that was coming into Perth, and the car carrier, it's 6 months that people have been waiting for this thing to come in. It came in last month, I believe. But it just shows you, how long it takes to get anything these days. But even if you've got the money to buy for it, brand new, just no chance that you might get it for 6 months, and you can't run a mine like that. So
100%. And sure, it's great to have global trade, etc. But there comes a time right now, which we've been forced to look at due to all the supply chain issues that are going on, where it's right, how can we become more self-sustainable and self-sufficient so that we can, Holden years ago, we were building our own cars in this country, until that got shut down. What an epic failure that is. We still have the capacity to do that. Yet are we going to? No, because now it's turning over to all the EV cars that we're going to be supplying all the, minerals for. So all the rare earths for to build, and the batteries as well.
We used to make all the underground equipment Elphinstone before Caterpillar bought them out. They all used to be made in Tasmania. And, I know guys that are still looking for old boggers that were made back in Tasmania in the day because they've got a good skeleton. And the ones that are being made in South Africa and Thailand at the moment, they have a tendency of snapping in half. So it's, horses for courses like anything else. But yeah, we've done it before. We can do it again. And I think we're mad not to be honest with you.
Definitely. And you know what? I think we've got the power here. We've got all the minerals. We've got everything that all these countries need to go forward and actually hit their green targets, etc. Like, I'm all for doing the right thing by the environment, but you've got to use that bit of common sense as well, which says we're not going to completely cut off our own nose to spite our face. Yeah.
And I every time I see an article about coal or anything like that with the ABC or any of the other, people that are on that bandwagon, you just see it. It's just another nail in the coffin of coal, unfortunately. And it doesn't have to be like that because, we've got some of the best coal in the world, the darker stuff that burns the cleanest. And the people overseas that are buying it, like, if we tell them that we're not selling you the coal, they're not going to go, oh, okay, well, we'll close down our coal-fired power station and we'll bring in renewables. They're going to go to the next best thing. And the next best thing is often some brown coal from their own country that they get a bunch of kids to dig it up, sort of thing. And, that's not a great option either. It's just making the situation worse.
Yeah, no, agreed. Hey, so look, this has been an awesome chat, Andrew. Thank you so much. Tell us
Not a problem.
Where can people find you? Tell us a little bit about your underground course. I know it's awesome. Like, I've done it, and it's a game changer from all the candidates that we work with who have gotten jobs within the underground industry. So tell us a little bit about the course.
So you can find it online at www.undergroundtraining.com.au. We also have a YouTube channel that they get me to do, and you can hear me drone on about mining endlessly. Australian Mining for New Starters, that YouTube channel is called. But there's about 50 hours of information that we take you through, and the course takes you through. And it's just the guts. It's everything that we wanted a new starter to know before they came down on one of our crews underground for the first time. So the whole idea is, but when you go underground for that first ride, instead of freaking out like everybody else is in the ute, you're playing a great big game of I Spy, because you know what everything is. And as you drive through the portal, you go, okay, there's the portal, there's the stench gas, there's the first stockpile, there's the first refuge chamber, there's the magazine, there's the escapeway, all that sort of stuff. You know what it all is, instead of driving past it and the shift boss going, yeah, there's a bogger there, yeah, that's a truck, yeah, that's an IT, yeah, that's the magazine in there, here's the crib room, don't blink, you'll miss it, sort of thing. And it's all terminology that you've got no idea what it is if you haven't done anything on day one. Whereas if you've done the training, you're talking to the shift boss, you're understanding what's going on, you can sit in the morning meeting and understand what's happening, and that just gives you a huge advantage over everybody else, not only in getting the job, but once you get the job, making the most of it. A lot of the people that come through, because there's a service crew component, there's a service crew course, a lot of people end up spending 6 months on the truck, and because they've got that knowledge of service crew, they end up making that jump up quite quickly. And you end up on a $150,000 a year job, within the first 12 months of mining. You can't really knock that, can you?
Definitely. But rule number one, as we all know, don't be that dick who's Mr. Know-it-all when you get to site.
The course tells you about 3 or 4 times not to be the know-it-all.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Number one rule of mining.
I've seen it. If you, as soon as you tell somebody, like if somebody offers you some advice in the crib room and you say, oh no, I already know that, that you'll find that that's probably the last bit of advice you'll ever get offered by anybody. So, always take the feedback, no matter how, bad it is, or people in underground, they're loud. As you can see, I'm probably pretty loud because we've got earplugs in our ears all day. And often, then communication's not their best skill. And sometimes, even though it's not seeming like it's coming across in a loving manner, they really are trying to help you, even though it seems like they're trying to tear scripts off you. So communication, take the feedback, don't be overly sensitive to it, and just try and get at what they're getting at, because, a lot of the feedback is they're trying to help you. They're not trying to, hinder you in any way.
Yeah, let's just put it straight down the line. It's a no bullshit industry. You can't go out there and be like, get your feelings hurt by somebody saying something to you. They're just giving you feedback because you're in a dangerous environment. So, it's not lighthearted.
And everybody gets paid on what they do. So the more everybody does, the more everybody gets paid. And that's the big thing. So they're interested in people that are going to have a go. And that means for the whole 12 hours. I mean, I've had shifts where I've been paid $1,200, $1,300, $1,400, but you can imagine what lunch was. Lunch was 5 minutes in between firing time, sort of thing. But when you're getting paid that much money, you're sort of like, okay, swings and roundabouts, let's get on with it.
Definitely. And one last question: how have you found the difference in the industry now with females coming into it?
Honestly, it hasn't made much of a difference in my mind. Like everybody underground, when you're on the crew, the one thing that unites everybody is the money. So it doesn't matter. You've got people of all colors, of all shapes, of all sizes. But, when you get into the crib room, it'll be somebody, that owns racehorses, somebody whose partner runs dressage horses, somebody that's trying to sell you a pyramid scheme, someone that's trying to sell you Tupperware, somebody that's into their share market and all that sort of stuff. And, it doesn't matter if they're male or female, gay, straight, whatever. The money's the thing that links everybody together, and that's what unites around it. And that's what I try and tell people, that if you saw the person that likes their money, you'll be fine. If you're getting into it for anything else, that you'll probably find that it'll be really, really hard, unfortunately.
Yeah, and let's face it, everyone's in there for the money. Anyone who says they're not is a liar. No, just kidding.
I'll tell you I had a foreman back in the day. If he used to hear anybody say that they weren't there for the money or anything like that, he wanted you gone.
Yeah.
If you're not here for the money, then what the hell are you here for?
100%. I swear we could do one of these and just be talking about like crazy, hilarious mining stories, because I'm sure you've got some and I've got some, and it's a different breed of people who work in the mining industry, and I think the best kind. So
yeah. And it's really straightforward too. My advice to people getting in is just be honest with people. If you stuff up, put your hand up, pay your carton, and engage in what's going on around you, in that culture that's around you, because you'll find that, you'll probably get embraced and, all that sort of stuff when you do put your carton on at the end of the day. And it turns into a de facto safety meeting, and, it'll be like, oh, Alana, don't worry about that. You should have seen when I did this back in the day, sort of thing. And so it's good to be honest with people, because as soon as they find out that you're lying, you're gone. That's the one big thing, as soon as they find out that you've lied, no matter what the circumstances, you're gone. So it's just best to be honest and be straight up with people. And engage in the culture and you'll be right.
Definitely. And don't bullshit on, I've driven this, if you haven't, because that's found out very, very, very quickly.
So many people I've seen over the years come into the industry that claim that they were, air leg miners and jumbo operators and all that sort of stuff. And they ended up, they'd read a book somewhere and they'd bullshitted on their resume. And, one of these guys ripped off a jumbo boom. And so not only did he get run out the first day he was there, he did over $500,000 worth of damage to the jumbo. So it's just, I know. So, they're onto all that sort of stuff because, and, people within the industry have seen a lot of stuff come and go back in the day. The other thing that I just wanted to bring up with you is that we see a lot of people that have done utility jobs that want to jump over. One of the best ways to jump over is the training, because you're combining your mine site experience with actually not knowing what's going on underground. And when you can do that, that really floats people's boats. Whereas if you just come at them and saying that I've been on a mine site for 2 or 3 years, and you don't have anything else to throw at them, then it's not a lot of difference between hiring somebody with no experience. Because you're not bringing anything. But if you've done the training and you can talk to them about refuge chambers and all that sort of stuff, then you're bringing something to the table. And we've had a lot of people do that over the years, make that jump that way, but it can be hard otherwise.
Definitely. It's a great transitionary job as well. And you know what? They're so desperate. I was speaking to one of the shift bosses from one of the big mining companies a couple of weeks ago, who was saying, we just can't get people. We like the last group of people, we had a guy from Macca's, a guy who worked at Target, and it's just like, what is going on, So there are so many opportunities, but then, it's getting one of the keys is getting through their recruiters at the same time to be able to be that squeaky wheel that gets in front of their face and says, "Here I am, give me a shot." So
yeah.
And tell me again. Okay, I did a video yesterday on qualifications. Don't spend your money on ridiculously expensive qualifications. What are the qualifications you need for an entry-level underground job?
You need a manual car license. You need a 1 day working at heights, a senior first aid ticket, and some mining knowledge from the training. What you don't need is a 3-day dump truck driving course, any of the R2 tickets. None of the hard rock employers can use them. They have to issue their own equipment tickets. So I see this a lot with what we do. And when you approach an employer for an underground job and you've got a whole bunch of R2 tickets on your resume and you're coming at them with that, then all you're saying to the employer is, I don't understand how your mine works. Because they can't use the tickets. Your resume should be, if you've used excavators before or dump trucks before or whatever, it should be what the machine was, how long you were on it, and what you were doing with it. They're not interested in the tickets at all, and they can't use them. They can't import them. They have to issue their own. So
yeah, no, 100%. Like I'm sure you saw yesterday. A guy came to us and was about to spend $5,000 on mining tickets because an RTO said to him, "Oh, if you do this, it's your surefire way straight into the mining industry," when he had never even set foot on site as a utility. So that's, to me, that riles me up. I'm like, don't waste your money at all. So yeah,
just go on to Seek, type underground in, hit spin, and have a look at the truck driving jobs. None of them ask for tickets. They are just ask for experience because they can't ask for tickets because nobody can use them. So it's It bugs me too, because I've come across a lot of people over the years that have spent $5,000 or $10,000 on tickets that the employers can't use. I mean, the reason that it's around so much is because coal in Queensland uses them, but it's only coal in Queensland. Coal in New South Wales doesn't use them. Coal over here doesn't use them. Hard rock around the country doesn't use them. Construction uses them, and shutdown workers use them. Because when they do the shutdown job, they reclassify that area of the mine as a construction site, so they don't have to put everybody through all the crazy stuff that we have to put the miners through when they get to site. So they can just bring those R2 tickets in. But your R2 tickets aren't going to get you a mining job.
Never been on
a hard rock mining.
And they're not going to get you. They're not a surefire ticket to guarantee you walk straight into a job if you have no background at all. Like, that just is my complete pet hate. Companies, they want to make money. They want to make that $5,000. Yeah. Do an excavator ticket. You'll go into an excavator job paying you $180K a year. Ain't going to happen.
No.
Yeah, 100%.
And the people selling it are ex-bloody call center operators that are all the hard sell. And none of them have been to a mine site before. And, you know that. And because they wouldn't be able to sell it the way they're selling it if they knew the truth.
Definitely. Yeah,
because the people that are running those companies are using sales staff that don't know the whole truth. Because if you said to them that, "Oh, I can't use that ticket on that mine site," do you really think that they'd be selling it? Because they're getting told that they can use it anywhere. The S11's a perfect example of that. I hate it when they say, "Oh, this is a nationally recognised induction." Who recognises it? Nobody but Queensland Coal recognises it, because it's part of the R2 system now. That's a national system that makes it national. But none of the hard rock underground mines ever used the S11. I mean, if you call New South Wales mine site and ask, "I've got an S11, give me a job," they'll probably say, "S what?"
Definitely.
With an expletive in front of it.
Yeah, no, it's literally only Queensland for the standard 11. In WA, and everyone's like, "What the hell's that?"
There's some recruitment company over here trying to sell it at the moment. They're trying to sell an S11 here in Perth, south of the river. There's a bloody RTO trying to sell it. It's just it's gobsmacks,
Yeah.
Why would you spend money doing it on that? Yeah, and the way that they label it is that, this is a nationally recognised accreditation. The employers will want you to know what's in here.
Yeah.
No, they won't. It's only for coal and only for Queensland.
Yeah, definitely. So thanks for clarifying that too. That's God, it just riles me up so bad. Yeah, definitely. So look, Andrew, thanks so much for your time today. Yeah, definitely have to get you back on one time. We'll just do a whole shit ton of funny mining stories, I reckon. What do you reckon?
Oh, yeah. I reckon we should have a chat once a week.
Yeah, why not? Let's do that. We can
Yep.
get people if you want to chuck us some questions or some topics,
Definitely.
we'll nut it out for you. If we can't get information, we'll source it from somewhere else. But I'm sure between both of us,
Yep.
give some pretty good answers. So yeah, if you are watching, thanks for watching firstly, and of course, if you need any assistance getting into pretty much any job ever, like, you know, have a chat with Andrew, jump onto underground training if you want to go underground, if you want to go into surface, if you want to go into production, anything else, feel free to hit us up at winwin.com.au. Remember, it's number 1 instead of an I, and there is an AU on the end. We do career consultation. We get candidates for mining companies, and I've got some exciting stuff coming up as well, so watch this space. So, Andrew, thanks heaps. Have an awesome day, and we'll chat soon.